I will be finding a job as a corporate lawyer, and then yeah, that I will be finished in summer with my studies. And also, yeah, if it would be possible, I would also love to write a book. I recently wrote a short story in not the short story I have in my description, but another short story. Like, I wrote it last week. Hey Tapia, welcome! JBO is a German rock band. You want to share it with me, Noamto? Just send it to #media in my Discord. I have not seen Samurai Jack yet, no. Oh, I clicked the wrong. And Itachi! Welcome from France! Hello, Itachi. You have tried everything. Impressing women with cooking, surprising a girl on her birthday, drawing, engraving. You were sad you got rejected, but you're glad for all the hidden talents. Well, I think that sometimes you can also discover things with people, like together with other people. But of course, if you're having some more alone time, then you can discover some other talents as well that these people might not share. I think maybe there was just not the right woman for you, because, you know, cooking is something that every woman loves, and also, okay, surprises, I don't like surprises. But drawing, engraving, that's awesome. So just have a bit more patience. I guess you will find your, you know, here in Germany we say you will find the lid to your pot, which
How's everybody doing today? Thought I'd do some retro stuff. Got a couple questions on how to do LCDs on the old ramps, so I thought I'd show that real quick. Let me check on the chat, see if the sound is good. So let's see. It's a little quiet in the chat so far, so if you want to say hello, that's good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to set this up real quick. This is the Ramps 1.4, and it's been forever and a day since I've used it, so this might be interesting. But in order to do the display, we got to slide this in. I don't know how well this is going to work because it's been forever, so we'll see. And then we're going to connect the notch connector on here. And we're going to connect it first to a regular LCD. Let me grab one. So this one here, and we'll see if it works. So this is, I believe, EXP2, but it's okay if you plug them in backwards. And let me grab another one here. Connect the notch. And then connect it in backwards as well here. And what we're going to see is, does this light up? That's all we care about initially. So let me get that in a place where it's not going to roll around too much. So I'm going to take the USB and connect it in 2 seconds. I just had to find it. There we go. And it's not lighting up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this out and pop this out and reverse them, because this is usually what occurs. And it's not lighting up, so it might be my display panel in this case, so I'll grab another one to see what happens. So here's another one. We'll try this and see if it works. So it's not lighting up. So let's reverse it. It might be also the board is no good. So we got power. So this is the RepRap Discount Full Graphics Smart Controller. And so that's the stage that we're at, where we've got it to illuminate. Now to set it up, we need to go into VS Code. Let me just get this out of the way. Got a bit of sunlight here, so things are a little bit distracting. So inside VS Code, we're going to go over to the Explorer, open folder, then we're going to go to Downloads, Marlin again, select folder. Once this comes up, we don't have to change anything because the Mega is already default for the default environment. And the board is also default, so I'll show you that real quick. So if we search on motherboard, we can see that it's already the Ramps 1.4. So the only thing that we need to do is enable the LCD. So I'm just going to show you the quick method first. So I'm going to search on RepRap underscore discount underscore full, and hopefully that brings you to it, which it doesn't. So let's see what I said incorrectly. Let's try that again. How about spelling rap correctly? So it's the second one down here. So we need to remove the comment. And to load this, first we're gonna hit the garbage can to clean out previous builds. Then we're gonna do the upload, and we don't have to change the actual serial port, which I'll show you right now. So if we go back to motherboard, up here this should be default 0, I think. It could be 1. I usually screw this up the first time through, so let's try 1 and see if that works. And I'll check on the chat while this is going on. Hopefully it won't fail a second time. And it's awfully quiet in the chat today. Okay. So, now that it's almost complete, it's going to send the actual hex file over. So it's sending as we speak. That's what this little thing down here is. And in theory, it'll bring up our LCD with the display, but we'll find out in a second. This takes a little bit of time because I think it does a verification as well. And it's also 8-bit. So it says it's successful, so I'll flip over so you can see what's going on. So it just booted up into the LCD. So now we can click here and we can navigate, hopefully, with a little bit of pressure. So let's go back to the info screen and see if we can find anything on the SD card, which we can't. So we'll have to change that too. So I'll go back over to VS Code and show you where that is. Inside VS Code, we're going to search on SD space support, I think. And that'll bring us over here. I'm going to skip over a lot of the language settings. They're kind of obvious. They're actually written right here, and then the 2-letter language that you're using should work. There is a test language, but I'm not going to go into that. It takes a lot of time to show that. So I'm looking for SD support, which is right up here. So I'm going to enable that, and then I'm going to load it again. And while that's loading, I'll check on the chat again, see if there's any questions that you guys have. Looks like there's no questions just yet. That's fine. So this should load a little bit smoother the second time through. And then I have an SD card that I have to check to make sure it's got files on it. So let me see where you are in the chat so I'm not... Okay. Just wanted to make sure that I'm not on the wrong screen. But I'm going to bring it over to the bench so that you can see what's about to occur. So any second now the build will finish. And when it finishes, it'll reboot. So while that's going on, I'm going to check on the drive to see if it's got a file on it, which it does. So I'm going to pull that out. And now that it's rebooted, we're going to see if there's a menu on it. So it says no media. So here's the media. So if I don't plug this in backwards, because it's been forever since I've used it, now it says change media. So let's scroll down, push to select, and hopefully it'll see the media, which I don't think it does. So it might have something to do with my SD card, but I got this working last night on another configuration. There it is. There's what's called the Snowball Hold. It's actually Snowball Holder. That's the thing I designed for the speaker. It's a G-code file. That's why we're able to see it. So now that we can do that, let's try a different LCD. So I'm going to disconnect this. I'm going to power this down for a second. And then I'm going to pull this out and see if we can get a different one to work. So we're going to try this one. So I'm going to pull the cords off that are special for the other configuration. And then I'm going to hopefully connect these correctly. If not, we'll know right away. So we'll reconnect that. We'll plug it in, and it's coming right up, but it's not going to have the right firmware on it. So let me stand this up so you can see it, hopefully. Well, it's kind of hard to stand up without causing a short. So at present, it's not going to work. So I'll show you how to make it work. So you go to VS Code. You're going to search on RepRap again. And then it's going to be discount. And the very first one that you come across, you're going to remove the comment, but you're going to search a second time to shut down the other one. So you're going to add a comment right here. And that one will no longer be in use. So let's try reloading again and seeing if this works. And I'll check on the chat while that's going on. Hey Mike, how's it going? I'm doing good. Well, it looks like the build failed. So let's see what we can figure out here. It says fatal error, cannot create .pio. So we're going to click on the garbage can. And then we're going to do an upload again because this probably got stuff from the previous build in it. So that's going to take a few moments. And when it loads, I'll actually move over so you can see what's going to happen. So let me take it over to where you can see the workbench because the file load's not that interesting. So the file load's going on right now. It's writing to it. So it's going to be a second and then it'll reboot. But this way you'll get an actual idea of what's happening. So now it's verifying the actual read of the write, I think. And you can see that with the little flashing light. 8-bit obviously is slower, so you can see what's going on. And now it's completed. So let's click here. See if there's anything for media. There is no media. So we're going to take some media and put it inside. And now it says change media, and it says print from media. So we have the file. So that's how you hook up that. Now I thought I'd try something different, and that's the I2C, and it's the flashing bulb. And this is, I forgot what it's made by. It's the Blink M. So we're going to power this down. And I'll try and zoom in so you can see this. I gotta move this out of the way. So I'm gonna put this over here. Let me see if I can boost it up so you can see what's going on. And I'll zoom in so you can see what the actual ports are. Okay, on here, you see plus or minus, plus, D, and C. So hopefully we can hook this up because we know that on the RepRap it's going to have something similar. So let's go over to the browser for a second and I'll show you what's going on. On the browser, I pulled up the RepRap pinouts. I'll pull them up again actually. So this is the ramps 1.4 pinouts. And on here, let's see if we can find a pinout diagram. There's one. So it says 5 volts, ground, 20, and 21. So these are signal pins of some type. And you have 5 volts in ground. So if we go back over to the workbench, which I know is in horrible focus, let me see if I can fix it. That's even better. You can see that it says negative, positive, DC. So to hook this up, we're going to pop this off and we're going to use jumpers. So I'm going to pick out the red and the black and do those first. So the red we know is going to be located right here, and I'll zoom out so you can see what I'm doing. So we have the red right here, and then we need to find the plus pin on here, which is the second pin over. And then we need to find the ground, which is the second pin over here. And so it's going to be the first pin on here. And then the other two I'm not sure of, so we'll just do them in order. But they're signal pins, so hopefully it won't damage anything. And then of course I got to look up these commands because I forget them every time. So now that that's in there, we're going to see what's going on. So I'll change the focus so it's actually more clear, hopefully. Maybe see if I can reduce the light a little. Might even turn out some lights. There we go. Let me check on the chat before I do this. Oh, it's still quiet. Okay, so I'll go over to VS Code in a second. And in here, we're going to search on Blink M. And it looks like it's right here, so we'll just remove the comment for now. And then there's going to be a G code associated with this, and I'm not exactly sure what it is off the top of my head. So we'll just see what happens when we load the firmware. So I'll begin to load the firmware now. And then I'm going to go over to the actual board so you can see what happens. Hopefully something changes. And it's not too bright. Let me see if I can dim it some more here. And of course it failed while loading, so the reason it failed is kind of obvious. So that's a little bright, I know. The firmware is not loaded yet, so it's just running through its normal pattern. So let me try loading again off camera so you can see this. It's not going to change much probably. And I know that's super bright, so let me see if I can point it away from the camera a little. Okay, it's loading as we speak. Okay, now I'm gonna see if I can find the commands off camera here. Blink M G codes Marlin. Okay, I'll show you this in 2 seconds. So I'm gonna go over to the browser for a second so you can see this. So inside the browser I found the G codes by Googling it. It's M150. So let's try just doing this command to see if we can turn it blue. So I'm gonna have to go into VS Code, or excuse me, into Pronterface. And inside Pronterface, we don't know what the COM port is. We could guess that it's 14 and see if it connects. It doesn't. So we're gonna go over to Device Manager and find it. So inside Device Manager, we're going to go to the ports. It says Mega 2560 is 21. So we're going to go over here and we're going to say 21, and then we're going to hit connect, and it says connecting. Hopefully it'll connect. But it could be a speed issue, so we'll find out in a second. So I'm going to hit disconnect, and I'm going to double check to make sure it's not loading still. It says successful, so I'm going to give it a power cycle. So this is what we're going to do. There's a reset that you can do by doing that, and then that. And then we'll go back into Pronterface and try and connect. And it doesn't like that. So I'm going to close Pronterface and reopen it. It's on 21, connecting. So there's something wrong. So where is that reset button? I don't think there is one. It should come up normal, which is not normal right now. So let's try this. Huh. So pick this up. I'm just moving it closer, and I'm going to change cables on it because I have a funny feeling the length of the cables might be affecting it. So I'm going to move it over just a slight bit and try the different cable. Then I'll close Pronterface and reopen it. But it could be there's something about this that I don't know. Like I plugged in something backwards and that's why it's having issues. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the desktop for a second. See how I've moved it over? I'm actually going to disconnect it for a second. Going to disconnect this. And I'm going to reconnect this. And I'm going to see if I can connect normal. So there's something else going on. So what we're going to do is back out of some of the changes and see if that fixes it. So I'm going to go back over to VS Code. And we're just going to hit Control Z on everything. And then we're going to load the firmware after we do a clean. And then we're going to do an upload. And I'll check on the chat in a sec. So this isn't going super well yet. There seems to be some kind of issue. I'm not exactly sure what the issue is yet, but we'll see if we can figure it out. So there is an issue now with compiling. So I'll clean again, but before I do that, I'll go up here. And I'll double check my cabling. Actually going to remove this one for now. And I'll connect the old one. And we'll try this again. It might be that the software thinks it's a different one. So it's actually loading, so it is connecting to it. So I don't have Cura open, so I know that's not affecting it. But there are other ways we can look at this if I have TerraTerm on this computer. But let's go to VS Code for a second and see what we've got here. So let's try connecting. It's connecting now, but I did change the speed. So I'm going to change the speed back and reconnect again. And now it's working right. So something between the LCD changes and the plugging in of the blink caused issues. So let's plug back in the blink and just load just the blink and see what happens. So I'm going to disconnect the power from the actual ramps board. And then I'm going to reconnect everything again. So I believe it was voltage ground, but I'll double check this before I power up the system. And then these two I wasn't worried about, so I'm just going to plug them in. And let me double check this before I do anything. So I'm going to go back over to the browser. And inside the browser, we're going to search on ramps 1.4 pinouts. Inside here, we're going to grab this, and we just want to know what the pinout is, so it's plus minus. So plus is voltage, ground. So we're good there. So I'm going to plug it back in on the desktop. It's going to flash like normal. We'll go over to VS Code. Inside VS Code, we'll search on Blink or mBlink, I forgot what it is, or Blink M. And we'll remove the comment again. And then we'll try and upload to this and see if it actually works. And while that's going on, I'll double check to make sure we're not connected in Prunterface. Let me check on the chat real quick here. Still very quiet. Guys can speak up if you want. So it's loading as we're speaking, so I'm going to go back over to the workbench and see if everything's okay. It's still flashing like normal. And it loaded fine. And the blink pattern, I think, changed slightly. So let's see what's going on in VS Code, or Prunterface, excuse me. But let me bring up Prunterface so you can see. I'm going to connect. That's good. And then we'll try that command that we were going to try before. So M150B30, I don't know what this is going to do, but let's watch. So it looks like it changed it to blue. So blue you could use for the color of cool. And then we could see if we can change it to red. I think that is going to be, let's move it to 0 for a second. So it's off. So I said B0. Now I'm going to do R. And we'll try 50 and see what happens. Because it's red, green, blue, I think. And it's red. So that's a way you can say that power is on. Let's see if we can turn it up to 255. So that's about as bright as you can make it, but that's not bad. And then I think yellow is possible. So maybe we can make this orange. Actually, it might be green, sorry. And I don't know what it is. That's awesome. So let's do blue 50. And then we'll do red 50. And see if we can do them together. Apparently not. So I know there's a way to do it. It's been a while. But at least now you know how to do the blink on the ramps configuration. There's something weird going on between all my configurations with LCD screens. I think there might be an issue inside Marlin, because last night I had issues. But let me check on the chat, see what's going on here. So where's everybody from, or is everybody sleeping right now? Because I can see a lot of people in there. Well, does anybody have any questions of things they want to see today? How's the sound, by the way? So I guess the next thing that I'm going to try and do is actually set up the blink on the MKS S-Gen L and see how that works. So I'm going to power this down. I'll bring it back over to the desktop so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to pull this out of the way. I'm going to clean this up real quick. And what we're going to try and do is see if we can get this to work on a different board that doesn't have the pins allocated very clearly. And the MKS S-Gen L is one of those cases. This probably is not going to work well, but let's give it a try and see, because I don't know where these pins are, but we might be able to figure them out. So we're going to go over to VS Code for a second. Inside VS Code, we're actually going to go over to Source, Core, and then we're going to go to Pins. And first we're in the ramps. So let's see if we can find the ramps board right here. So it's probably this one. And what we're going to look for is I2C. And it looks like there's several places where it's listed, but there's 40 and 42. I'm not exactly sure if those are, looks like it's for an LCD. So let's keep searching. So there's only 2 places that they're talking about them. So let's cheat and find the pins. So if we go over to the browser for a second, we're going to see if we can find the pin numbers. And those are listed as 20 and 21. So let's go back to VS Code and see if we can find those. So let's search on 20 unless we can find it quickly. Let me try that again. So we can't find 20 very well. Let's try 21. There's no results. That's super interesting. So this might be hard-coded inside the program, which would not be good. But there should be a pin 20. But here's what's going on. You might not know what I'm saying here, but I've gone through this before. If you look at the beginning of the file, sometimes there's a clue, but right here you're not really seeing it. So let's go to the very end and seeing if there's a clue here. There's like usually a ramps common is what I'm looking for. But let's see if we can find it in here. So let's try the ramps 1.3 and search on 20. It's not there. So this is going to be a fun one. Ramps old. That's a different chipset right there. It's probably that one. So normally they have a way to tie them together that I can see right away. but it knows what the pin is because we're able to use it. Wow, that's super odd. Normally you'd be able to find it. Maybe I'm going right by it. Okay, ramps 1-4. So what I'm trying to find is a board that's common. It's not called common though. So an example of this would be like some of the chipsets down in here might do it. Actually, they're probably up here. You have a common, and that breaks out to multiple boards. In this case, the ramp should have one too, but obviously I'm looking at a screen that is not showing it to me. So let's see. Ramps. It's not that one. What they're doing is they're tying pins together between files, and that's what I'm trying to figure out. But obviously I'm not figuring it out, so we'll go over and we'll select a different board just so we can see if we can figure this out for the LPC 1769. So we'll do the SGen L, and we'll search on I2C because this is taking too long. So there's I2C for EEPROM. It's not what we're looking for. And there's no other listing. So let's go and look at the pins for this board. Where is everybody? I don't know. They're awfully quiet today. I can see them in there though. There's 4 or 5 people. It is kind of quiet, but maybe it's the time of day or there's festivals someplace. So I don't know what's going on with this yet. Oh, excuse me. But there's got to be a way to equate the two boards somewhat. And what I'm trying to find is I2C. So I'll make this less confusing so I can show you what I'm doing. If I go to the browser, I'm looking for this over in here. I think these are the pins, but they don't have numbers. They're really tiny. It's ground 3.3 volts. But that doesn't make sense because it's TRST, which is something reset. And it's TCK, which is clock. But I don't see I2C. And that's what I'm trying to set up. But they could be the ports over in here. So we could try that. But I don't know where I'm going to hook the ground and voltage other than a fan pin. So I guess we'll try that and hopefully not see any smoke. So I got this up here. I'm going to check on the chat real quick. Okay. So what I'm trying to figure out is what pins to use for I2C, like on the other board. And this is going to be confusing and probably not going to work. So I'm going to try this. I'm going to try these 2 pins. This might smoke the board, so hopefully not. So I'm going to connect here, and then I'm going to connect up here. And I think it's 12 volts and then ground. Let me verify that. Yeah, it looks like 12 volts is on the left, ground is on the right. So let's see what happens. Well, apparently nothing, so let's try 5 volts. There's got to be a 5 volt in the ground pin. So over in here, the top one is voltage. Then the next one, I'm using one of the end stop pins for X max. And I'm using the ground just for power. And it's powering up, but I don't know if it's working yet, so this is going to be interesting. Let's go over to VS Code and see if we can set this up somehow. So if we go to configuration.h, we have to change the motherboard. And so the motherboard is still the ramps. So I'm going to go over to the normal place of boards.h, search on SGen. Grab the board type, copy it, go back to configuration.h, paste it. Then I need to change the serial port to -1. So we've got that part set up. Now let's search on the Blink M again. See if there's any information in here. Well, there's not a lot of information, so let's give it a try. So I'm gonna do a clean, then I'm gonna do an upload. And that failed, so what's going on with the failure? Environment. So we gotta change the environment variable. Now this might not work because I was goofing around with the board earlier. So I may have to fix the actual load with a removing of the SD card. So let's try it and see what happens first. And it failed, so I'll do a clean and a build. And I'll disconnect this for the moment. I'm popping out the drive and actually connecting it via USB converter. So this might take a second. And I'll check on the chat. Oh, excuse me. So now that that's complete, I'm going to bring it over to the desktop in 2 seconds. And I'm going to right click on .pio, build LPC 1769, right click, go to File Explorer or Reveal in Explorer. And then I'm going to go into that folder and I'm going to right click and I'm going to send this to the USB drive. So we can check on the drive, it's there. So I'm going to disconnect this and go back over to the workbench. And plug this in. Plug that in. Let it flash for a second. Is the video okay? Hang on a second here. Something's not right. Looks like my video went out for a second. So hang on, let me see what's going on here. There we go. Sorry about that. Sometimes the connection gets all messed up and it takes me a second to figure out what's going on. So it should look normal now, but now we're going to go over to Pronterface and see if we can manipulate it. So we're going to try and connect. We obviously can't, so let's try finding the COM port. It's COM port 10. Try connecting. Looks like we're connecting. Now let's try manipulating the actual LED. Don't know if this will work. Nope, it's not working. So we got to figure out what the pin is for this. So it's probably going to take a little bit longer for me to understand what the issue is because the I2C pins are not in the right place. So let me check on questions. So what happened to you, Edward? You had issues setting up the MKS Robin Nano 3? I'm guessing that the COM ports are different on it. It's probably like 3 instead of -1. But I'm unsure, but I can show you a way to check it. So we're going to have to put down the blink for a moment because apparently I can't solve the problem without knowing where the pins are. And apparently the documentation isn't good enough yet. So I'll have to actually ask the manufacturer. So I'm going to go over to the browser and show you what's going on there. So if you go to GitHub or you type GitHub, then what is it? The MKS Nano V3, and then it's MakerBase. Hopefully that'll bring us to a place where we can actually look it up. So I'm guessing it's this one. They have a wiki on it probably. And then down here they probably say how to set it up. Huh, I didn't realize I made a video on that. That's so weird. I didn't, but I'll take the credit for it, I guess. So essentially in here we've got to find probably their firmware just to see what's going on. And this is probably the trick that you can use to figure out the problem. So we'll go into Marlin bug fix. Hopefully it's not a compiled one. So we'll go and do the regular Ender one. It's a compiled one, so that's a binary. We need to find a non-binary. And these are all bins, so let's see what asset says. These are all binaries as well. That's lovely. So we'll try their wiki. That's awesome. Marlin firmware. see if this is it. Here we go. So this is the Nano, Robin Nano. So let's go to firmware. Whoop, that's for a screen. Marlin config.h, and you're going to look for that. So that's the actual possible answer to your problem. If you're having trouble loading firmware, they changed the number for this particular board to a 3. So let me see what's going on with questions over here. So Edward, if you change the serial port to 3, try that. I know there's a slight delay between me showing it and saying it. How do you save in Microsoft Paint? Save. Unfortunately, I don't do tutorials for Microsoft Paint as much as I want. Oh, it's not 3? Is it a different number? Or what's occurring in your configuration that would say that it's not 3? Is it failing on compile? Okay, well, I'll wait for you to answer. I'll actually try and compile it. I don't have a Nano 3, but I can try and compile it and see if it works. So what I can do is I can go over to VS Code. Inside VS Code, I can minimize this, go to source core boards.h, search on Nano, apparently there is no V3 in here, so that might be one of the issues, but it says 5 places, so I could be wrong. So there's V2. Okay. So it's not listed there. So another thing you can do is this. You can go over to the browser. Inside the browser, you can go to marlinfw.com or org, sorry. Hang on a second. And inside here, you can go over to downloads and you can check the bug fix. So you can download this. So I'm going to save it. And we'll look on the desktop in just a second and see if that works. So let's go over to the desktop. So I'm going to go to my downloads folder. I'm going to go to the first Marlin folder that was just downloaded. I'm going to extract that. This might take a second. Hang on a second here. Apparently I'm having issues with my desktop all of a sudden, so give me a second to fix it. There we go. For some reason it's blanking out on me, but give it a second. I'll just move it over to the browser for the moment. Let me check to see if studio mode's working. Okay. Let me fix the display probably. Apparently OBS is not very cooperative today. So I'll actually open this up in VS Code, see if I can get around the problem. So in VS Code, we're actually going to close this project. Then we'll open the other one. So we'll browse the downloads folder. Go into bug fix, select folder. inside here, we're going to go to Marlin, source, core, boards.h. Search on Nano again. Apparently there's 7 instances in here. So let's see what we get. There it is. So you want to copy this board. Then you want to go back over to configuration.h. Search on motherboard. Paste it here. I think that's going to be a 3. And then we also have to check the chipset, which I don't know off the top of my head. So let's see if we can first see it here. So in platformio.ini, you'll search on nano underscore v3 probably. And so it's going to be this for your default environment or your environment. So then you'd scroll all the way back to the top, put that over the Mega 2560 paste, and do a clean, and then we'll try a build. The clean's taking a lot longer than I thought. That's interesting. Okay. So let's try doing a build now. And I'll check on the chat while that's going on. It might fail, but we'll see. Yeah, it's building right now. Looks like it's not going to fail at the moment. But we can try it with a -1 as well. So it looks like it completed. Let's see what it looks like in the .pio folder. Let me see if I can allow you to see that. Apparently it's not working. So I'm going to add a folder real quick here, just so I can get around this problem, hopefully. Give me 2 seconds just to see if I can work around this. And then I want to add desktop. There we go. Okay, let's see if this works. Okay, it looks like it's working, so I'm gonna try this on this screen. There we go. So we're gonna click over here, reveal and explorer, go to the builds, Robin, and then it gets slightly confusing. It's gonna be this one that you're gonna load, not the regular firmware.bin. They have a special process for their post-processing of the build. Does that help, Edward, or is that more confusing? Well, I could send you this build. I don't know if I can post it in the chat. Let's see what happens. Yeah, it's not going to allow me to paste it in the chat, but I can post it on what is it? Hang on a second. On Discord over here if you want, and then you can pull it down. Let me see if I can drag it in here. So it's right there. So if you come into the Discord, you can grab that and see if it loads. But let me go back to the workbench. Let's see if there's any other questions here. Have to apologize. Apparently OBS is not cooperating today and seems to be crashing on every little thing I do. So I've been trying to work around it so you don't see it too much. So do we have any other questions? If not, I'll give my spiel about Discord real quick. So I have a Discord page that I showed you just a second ago. This is where I usually get questions from people. It's usually in the general chat that you can capture my time easiest. But if you have YouTube requests, you can post them up here and I'll try and do them as soon as I can. Just keep in mind I get a lot of requests. And for those that have been tipping on PayPal and Patreon and in Super Chats, thank you very much. It's greatly appreciated. It helps keep this going and pays to help offset the cost of me buying the equipment for the tutorials. I'll be recording tutorials later today. I might let people see a sneak peek of what I'm doing, but it's all common stuff today. So I'm going to try and get out a couple of tutorials over the next week or two and fix some of the ones that I messed up that one day that everyone got to watch me doing it. Apparently I forgot to mention fans in some of them, so I didn't post those. So if nobody's got any more questions, I'll let you guys go for the day, and I'll be back Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then we might have a stream sometime this week. We're waiting on parts for Adrian's Ender 5. And we'll probably finish up the upgrade on that printer when we get the parts. So everyone take care. Thank you for your time. And I'll catch up with you later.